Good afternoon, everyone. We'd like to welcome you to a really special video that we're putting together today with my good friend, Mr. Marshall Gorby here. We wanted to start doing some videos and capturing, the lives and importance of some citizens in New Carlisle that have been very important to our community, our culture, and the way things are in New Carlisle and the people that have made them what they are today. So we have a very special guest today, do we not?
We do have a special guest, Mr. New Carlisle himself, Bill Berry. This guy has been part of so many things in this town that you have no idea. The Heritage of Flight Festival, he was one of the starting members along with myself. He's had other things. He started the community choir. I had no idea Mr. Berry was part of that. I knew he was part of it, but I didn't know he started it. But these are things in this town that he's had his hand in that has made us what we are. There wouldn't be a Heritage of Flight Festival if there wasn't a Bill Berry, because he helped carry it along the way.
Yes.
And that's how we got where we are, and we followed his lead. Without him, we wouldn't be who we are and what we are. This guy is actually the man that helps New Carlisle put us on the map to get us where we need to be.
Exactly.
Well, thank you very much.
Yes. Yeah. So we feel that it's important that, if we let people know in New Carlisle who don't know you about your life and how important you've been to the community and the surrounding areas as well. So, we know you pretty well, but I'll be honest, I don't know, for example, where you were born and raised. So let's just start the early years of Mr. Bill Berry.
A lot of time.
Well, we can, hey, if you need me to get a reason to call in Monday, we can take even an extra day.
There you go. We're ready.
Well, I was born in Springfield, Ohio, in the city of Springfield, very close to the old fairgrounds.
Okay.
Today is not there. That was over. It was in the boundary of South Yellow Springs Street, with West Pleasant Street, and Western Avenue. If you can picture that, if you've lived in Clark County, you can picture that area, rather on the south side of Springfield. That's where I was born, near that area.
Okay.
In October 12th, 1934. So I spent my first 4 years there in that area. Then my grandmother passed away, and she lived on Sugar Grove Hill, which was west of Springfield, right across from the Ohio Masonic home. My dad, fortunately, was able to purchase the homestead where he was raised on Sugar Grove Hill, and we moved there in 1939. I was 5 years old at that time. I remember being, making that move out there, and that's where I spent all of my early years up until the time that I was married in 1955. Wow. I lived on Sugar Grove Hill. I went to Rockaway School for 9 years, in first grade through ninth grade at Rockaway. And then we had the choice at that time to go to Springfield High School or to go to Olive Branch at that time, now Tecumseh. Most kids who lived on the hill, as we called it, went to Olive Branch because there was bus transportation there. If we would have gone to Springfield High School, we would have had to find our own way to get there. So obviously, none of us had cars at that time, or very few young people had cars. So most of us went to Olive Branch, and which later became Tecumseh. I started there in 1949, went through Rockaway for 9 grades, and then went to Olive Branch in 49 and graduated from Tecumseh High School in 1952. I was the first graduating class from Tecumseh High School.
So 52 was the first graduating year?
That's right.
The new building, or was it the new building
The new
then?
building at that time.
At that time. Not the new
Not
building then.
not the one you guys are in.
And to help people know, Rockaway, is it still where it was on Route 40?
Exactly.
Right. So that's the building you see on Route 40. If you're going in towards Springfield Way, that's the school he's talking about. And Olive Branch, of course, is the building right next to the new Tecumseh High School and the Board of Education. It's the round building. Believe it or not, it's beautiful inside. But that's just so it gives you an idea where he's talking about.
Yep. That was where I began my school education, going on to Olive Branch, and became graduated from there in 1952. And at that point in time, I wanted to go to college. I really wanted to go on to college. And I thought, I think I can do that. And at that time, you could go on to college and you could pretty well either work your way through, and that's what I had to do. My parents couldn't afford to, send me, but you could work your way through. You could get a job, make enough money to pay your tuition for at that time it was semesters. And so I would make enough money on jobs that I had at that time and to pay for my next tuition. Did that for 4 years. I was able to finish at Wittenberg College, Wittenberg University now in 1956.
So where were you living at those times?
At that time, I was still living at home on Sugar Grove Hill.
Okay.
In the old Berry home.
Is it still there?
And it's still there.
Is it still there?
Wow.
Yep.
So what were some of the jobs you did? I'm kind of curious.
Yes.
Well, I passed newspapers. That was probably one of the major jobs that I had.
Yep.
That was in our family. The newspaper business was in our family for 14 years.
Wow.
My brother Don started on the route 1942. I took it over. Jim took it over. My brother Jim took it over in 45 after Don went in the service. And then I helped Jim, and then I became the head boy. And Jim graduated in high school in 48. I took it over, and then I passed papers on Sugar Grove Hill and over to the Ohio Masonic home from 1948 to 1952, the year I graduated. And my sister Nancy took the route, and she had it until 1958.
Wow.
I love
So
it.
we had that in our family for 14 years.
So what kind of like teenager jobs did you do? Because nowadays everybody was working at a Taco Bell or McDonald's.
I cut grass in the summertime. Had a number of jobs that I did in Springfield. I had some people in Springfield that I cut for in Sugar Grove Hill. I worked part-time at a store that was located on 40, just about a block up from the Upper Valley Pike.
Okay.
And it was they sold farm equipment and different things like that. I worked there really more as a stock boy, but I learned a lot from that job. How to meet people, how to deal with people.
Sure. Customer service skills. People skills.
Yeah, it was people skills. I think that's where I first began to learn that kind of thing.
That's carried over to now.
Yes.
Well, it did. It helped me.
And it's
in my adult
important.
life.
Those skills are important.
Very much so. I learned how to talk to people, how to be polite to people, and it was just an interesting thing for me. I worked at a job in downtown Springfield. Back then, think about this, it was 1949. TV was really becoming big at that time. And
TV?
I went to work at a television store in Springfield.
Wow.
Putting up antennas. And they were a 10-foot pole. And you put a double X or a butterfly. That was another kind of antenna that you would use. And I did that for the 4 years I was at Wittenberg. I worked at that store. I learned how to sell. I became a salesman there. I would sell TVs, doing it part-time. But that's where I think I learned to be a people person, doing those kinds of things. I had to meet people.
Yeah,
right.
And I sold TVs. We sold appliances, refrigerators, stoves. It was called Jordan TV and Appliances. It was probably one of the biggest at that time. It was probably the biggest appliance store.
Where was that at? In Springfield?
It was located where the Mars Market building.
Yeah.
It was in the Mars Market.
Oh, wow.
Good.
In the building facing out to the main street there, that High Street.
High Street,
Okay.
sure.
And that was where the store was. And that was a good job because we could do 8 or 10 antennas a day. Because when you put them up,
Antennas.
you had a 10-foot pole and you had your antenna. So there were two of us would be on the job. one guy would be put the antenna together, another guy would be, if you were on a roof, and that's where you usually put them, you put the mount over the crest of the roof and tie it down. Then you'd put the pole in, tie that down.
So,
The antenna would be, somebody would have put the antenna on the pole.
so the antenna was for the store displays?
No, these were for
Homes.
Oh, so you were putting them together
We
for
were
people to
putting-
take with them?
No, he did them at home. He installed at home, right?
Yeah.
You went to the
Oh,
home.
you went to the
out to the
houses.
home center.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah,
okay.
We went out to the homes. We would, like I say, we'd put up 10 antennas a day.
Wow.
Modern day
You'd start-
Amazon there.
Yes.
8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning, and we'd have, that's when TV was big. People were
Now,
coming in,
this
they
one,
wanted them.
was this color yet? Or black
Not
and white?
color, it was
Still-
mostly black and white.
Okay,
That came a little bit later.
okay.
I can remember the first TV that I got, that I took home from the store. It was in a box, the box about like that, like a suitcase.
Weigh about 100 pounds?
No, it wasn't that heavy. It was just, and there was a picture screen of about 7 inches.
Really?
And I can remember Hal Jordan was my boss. And I asked, I said, how can we had some of those things sitting around? I said, can I take one of those home? Yeah, take it. You got it. You know, yeah, they were just, some of them were used.
Sure.
So I took that home, and I can remember my dad was so surprised, you know,
Really?
watching that
Fascinating.
7-inch screen TV.
So you guys didn't have a TV at the
No,
time?
no, not many people were beginning to get them, but you know, that was a big thing. 1948, 49.
History right here.
Yeah. Well, okay, so I mean, I've seen old ads and what was a TV cost back then, probably?
Oh my
If
God,
you can remember.
they weren't cheap.
Oh, no.
Especially if you got a console
Yeah.
model. A lot of people would buy small ones, but the console models would cost you $400, $500, $600.
So that's probably
That was a lot of money.
2,000, 3,000
Yeah,
now.
now easy. Yeah.
And we had station in Dayton. Channel 7 was the first channel, TV channel that I can remember. Channel 2 came along then. That Channel 2, Channel 7 were the two most important stations. And at that time, they could broadcast out, and you could pick up with an antenna in Springfield. You could pick up the signal. They weren't good signals,
Right, but it got the job
you
done.
could see it, and it was a big thing, you know. TV. That's when TV really come on
amazing.
board.
So you've been involved in newspaper and television. Holy cow, this guy's done it
Yeah.
all.
And you were doing this while you were in college, correct?
Yeah,
And you majored in college
Music.
and
music.
I majored in music in college.
Okay, so we
Go ahead.
know you, at least locally, and I know you for, your love for what I would say is your love for history.
Yeah,
So where did that come into play?
was always interested in that, and I think I became interested in that because my dad and my mother, we would take trips, day trips, not any long trips. We'd go places that were historical, and that became important to me. I thought, they tell me this has been here since the 1700s, or this has been here since the 1800s. So I was always interested in history from there, and I studied that too in college. That was probably my second major. Music was first, and history was kind of second.
Okay.
And so I was always interested in the history of things, and so that was a beginning of my development. And I graduated from Wittenberg in 1956. My first job was at Bethel Local School then in Miami County, and I taught there for 15 years. Taught music, started the guidance program, as I said, became a principal in the high school, and then left there in 1970, came to become principal.
Now let's get back here. You were talking about your beautiful wife. Did you meet her at Olive Branch? And how did you meet this young lady? Come on now, let's hear it.
Let's hear the love.
She was a year behind me in school,
Oh.
and we started going together at Christmas time in her senior year. I had graduated, but I knew her, and for some reason I can't tell you exactly how it came about. Well, she and I got together at Christmas, 1953, her senior year.
Yeah.
And that was the beginning of our love affair.
There you
Love
go.
at first sight, was it? Was it
It
love?
sure was. I knew her, from having grad. She was there, And but we began our fellowship at that
Okay,
time.
now let's just we'll make this quick and brief. But did her mom and dad like you, Mr. Berry?
Yes, he did.
Oh, well, then that's good. Okay, well, there you
I was
go.
acceptable to them.
Very good.
Well, it really was. I think we had a very good relationship.
That's half the battle right there.
We were married then in 1955. I was still in college. I had a year to go in college. My mom she was concerned about that. She loved Dee. She liked Dee. But she was afraid I would not finish college.
Who?
My mother.
Oh, okay. Because of the girls.
Because she thought that, something would happen. Well, that didn't
Mr.
happen until
Berry-
1957. We
Mr.
had our
Berry is
first
not
daughter.
irresponsible at all.
But anyway, we were married in 1955. I completed my education at Wittenberg. Dee worked at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. She went from high school. She did not want to go to college. She could have gone to college. Her parents could have afforded that. She didn't want to go to college. She went to work right away, and she got a good job at Wright-Pat.
Okay.
She and I were married then in 55. Dee continued to work there because I still was going to Wittenberg. She graduated in 56. She worked there until 1957. And that's when Brenda, our oldest daughter, was born in 1957.
Okay.
So she stopped, obviously, at that time to raise the daughter. And our life began to blossom out. At that point in time, I began to get involved in school activities.
Now, were you living here in the city
Yes,
already in New
yes.
Carlisle?
We were living with her folks for a period of time. Then we moved after I got the job at Bethel, we moved into an apartment on the corner of Henry and what's the street?
Lake Jefferson?
No, there's a street that goes up past my house. Scott Street.
Scott Street.
On the corner of Scott.
We knew that.
Yeah, and Lincoln. And that belonged to my Dee's aunt and uncle. And we lived upstairs in an apartment at that house on the corner. That's where her Uncle Dewey and Aunt Clara lived there. We lived up there until I started that job at Bethel. And then Dee's grandfather lived 2 doors up on Scott Street, where we now live
Okay.
and have been there since
Beautiful home.
Oh, yeah, it's a
1960.
great house.
We moved there in 1960. Her grandfather passed away at that time. And Dee had a deaf uncle who lived with Grandpa. He was a very sharp individual who just was deaf.
Yeah.
He had a good job in Springfield. And he decided to go into an apartment at that time. That's when we got the house.
Got the house from them.
And we started, renovating it, doing things to it.
Adding your own touch.
As to what we have now. And we've been there since 1960.
Well, here's the amazing part. And I know the answer to this, and I think you do too. But as we film this today, 2025 in February, how long have you and Dee been married?
We've been married, we married on the 4th of April, 1955. So this year, on April the 4th, we will have been married 70 years.
They've been married longer than I've been alive.
Yes, me too.
Just so you know, the reference of him graduating in 56 from Wittenberg University, I was born. This is knowledge right here.
Right.
How did you choose New Carlisle? I mean,
Yeah.
you went to Bethel, you could have gone to Tip City, you could have gone to Huber Heights.
Okay, so in what year did you come into New Carlisle?
Came here when we were married, 1955.
Okay, 55.
Right, but I mean, did you choose New Carlisle? That's just where you wanted to be? I mean, of all places
Well,
you
I
could
think
have
it
went
was
to. Home.
necessary.
Or was there an
You lived with
opportunity?
her parents. Okay, I see. That's right. I forgot. Okay.
Okay. That's right. So there was a purpose that got him
Yeah,
here.
there was a
You
purpose
came.
for that.
Okay.
Because I didn't have a job
It
yet.
just wasn't, hey, let's go live
It
in
wasn't that I love New Carlisle. I had mom and dad were taking care of us. Okay, I got it. All right.
Well, New Carlisle had to
Father
become
were good to us.
New Carlisle hadn't become what it has yet because he wasn't here yet.
It was just Carlisle. It wasn't new yet. It was just. No,
It was
I'm
just-
kidding.
Her mother and father liked me pretty well, I guess.
Well, you're a likable guy.
But they accepted us in, and we lived there with them. Like I say, for a year until I got the job at Bethel. Then we moved into an apartment. Then when her grandfather died, we moved into that house in 1960. And we've been there ever since.
So when you came to New Carlisle in the 60s and you did the stuff with the Bethel and you were at Tecumseh, what made you suddenly start getting more involved in New Carlisle, like the Masonic Lodge or the city or festivals or events? What made you want to go that way?
Well, I think one of the things that was an encouragement in that was my brother-in-law Stan Larison, my brother-in-law Joe Barnhart, they were older than I. They got me involved in activities here. The Masons, that's how I got into the active in the Masons.
Which is where we're sitting at.
Yeah, where we are.
Where we're at. We're in the Masonic Lodge on Main Street.
Right. They were both members. So I went into Masonry and I was 21 years of age.
You've been a Mason since you were 21?
Yep.
Wow.
Which was at that time you had to be 21. Today you can 18. Someone can go into Masonry at 18. But then it was 21.
Well, let me stop you for a minute, because you mentioned your brother, last name, you said Barnhart, right?
But no, that was my brother-in-law.
Oh, brother-in-law. And was that any relation to the airport?
There would have been a connection with the,
Okay. Very cool.
Just a relation, but the Barnharts around here were pretty much related.
Okay.
At some point.
So somewhere in the family line, okay.
And anyway, excuse me. That's how I got active in affairs here in New Carlisle. For some reason, as a Mason, I met people here in town, some of the important people who were in businesses, because many of them were members of the fraternity at that time. It seemed to be a popular thing for Masonry, for people to become a Mason. And it was going to happen because my two brother-in-laws were pushing me. But I also had an uncle who was a member of the fraternity. My dad was never a Mason, but back then, he raised a family of 7 kids, and by golly, he had to work hard.
Well, yeah,
and he did work hard, and I never felt hungry. Always had a meal.
He worked hard to keep it that way.
My mom always had a good meal for us. Always had a roast on Sunday. That was always popular. That was when we had meat. And that meat would follow through. We might have it for the next couple of days.
Hey, that worked.
What was left over. But it was just kind of the way the life was at that time, in the 1940s. But what a great time that was. The 1950s, in my estimation, that was probably one of the best times that I can remember as growing up as an adult. It was a time that when World War II had ended, people were back to work, were going back to work, where people were working during the war too, but things were quiet, things were calm, things were decent, people were decent, things were growing, the economy was growing. It was just a wonderful time during the 1950s, as I recall that, and I'm growing up to that, being married during that period of time. There wasn't difficulty. People were nice to one another. It was just a great period of time. That began to change then in the 60s. Things began to change in our country during that period of time in the 1960s.
Neighbors were neighbors. Neighbors helped neighbors.
That's right. People were good to one another. There wasn't the disagreements and the things that we see happening in our communities today, in our country today. There was a disruption in the way of life.
Sure.
And that I can remember that was one of them, I think, one of the greatest periods of time. And I think it had a lot to do with that war being over, people coming back, living normal lives, raising families, and times were pretty good.
So in your time in New Carlisle, what was New Carlisle like in the 60s for you here? I mean, do you remember the first thing you got involved in the community? I mean, when you're talking about how great it was, and I know it had to be hard for you to carry that over because of your age. You had respect always. That was always a love of country, respect, God, what was New Carlisle like in the 60s? I'm sure you were trying to carry that over. What were the first things you got involved in to try and keep things going?
Well, as I said, masonry was a door that opened the community to me, I believe, because I learned to know many of the business people who were members of the fraternity. And I seemed to get involved in things in town, not just through the masonry, but through other things that were happening. The town was growing. The town was, at that time, it seemed as if people got along pretty well together. There was friendships. That changed over the period of time, not just here in New Carlisle. It was a national international kind of thing.
What was, and you may not be able to answer this real quick, just to give us an idea and reference. I mean, in 1960, when you moved here, what was probably the population of New Carlisle then?
So about, I would guess probably about 1,500, 2,000.
Okay, I was going to say
Wow,
15, 2,000. So and we're setting it we're setting it right out 6,000. So.
About between 5,000 and 6,000.
Yeah, I think it's like 5,800.
That began to happen in the 50s and then on into the 60s as we begin to grow the community.
What was downtown like?
Downtown was lots of businesses.
Right.
At that time, there was even a clothing store here. Some of you might remember there was a store in Springfield called the Vogue Shop, and it was a men's clothing store.
Remember that?
I do not. No.
And actually, they came here in New Carlisle and opened a shop over on, I think, just one door down from the city building. And that first, where the jewelry store is, I think.
Sure.
I think that was where that one or the next one down was a Vogue Shop.
Okay.
And this good men's clothing store. Had nice suit coats and things like that. They were there for a number of years. And, did a pretty good business in town. But then, as things begin to change in our society, they just couldn't make it. They had to close that store. Though continued for a while after that in Springfield. But that's when there were a number of stores, that were busy stores. And they could make a living.
Was Western Auto there in the 60s?
Western Auto was there. And I can't remember the gentleman that first opened that. The first one I remember who was in there was
Mr. Peters?
Ron Peters.
Ron Peters. I remember Ron. Nice guy, super nice guy.
Had the Western Auto El Camino.
Yeah, a guy that before him, I can see him, but I can't recall his name that run it. But Ron moved in there and took it over then later. And we had all those businesses over there were good businesses that they could make a living and did make a living. And then when things changed in our society, then some of those they couldn't continue to
malls
operate.
And outlets, large outlet stores, right? Upper Valley, Fairfield, things like that. Yeah, this is up in New Carlisle. When basically New Carlisle was like a mall because you could walk down Main Street and buy anything.
We had everything.
That's exactly right. It was over there. That's when the malls came in.
And then everything moved away.
I think that mall opened, the Upper Valley Mall opened, I think in 68.
That opened up during about that period of time.
I'm pretty sure it was 68.
In the 60s, I think, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know if people really understand how nice it is to have a downtown business. I mean, the people that go over to the Green, basically it's a small downtown, which basically is what things went away from.
Yeah.
You walk through the main street and you have businesses, you knew people. You go to the Green, you really don't know those people there. You buy store stuff. But here you can go town to town. I can tell you the name of at least half the owners that own a business downtown. You knew them. You lived with them.
They were part of the community.
Yeah, they supported a little league team, they helped out with a festival. You saw their sign. But, and that's all the Green is. The Green is a downtown. I say this during Heritage of Flight. We're basically the Green because you can buy anything downtown. But it's sad that's kind of gone away, but we do have some really nice shops here in town.
We did.
They're trying to hold on very strong and very tight.
And they did that for a good while until, as I said, until some of the malls came in and people began leaving our community because they were bigger. The stores were bigger. There were more of them. They could go to a place where there were 8 or 10 stores in a mall.
Right.
And you could get about anything you wanted in those stores.
Mm-hmm.
And so that hurt the businesses in a town like New Carlisle or St. Paris or, the little burgs around us that had those stores and operated in, their businesses from that time.
And I think at one time there were 2 grocery stores in town, right? Johnson's and one on where Jeff's Automotive is.
That was
Cardinal? Was it
what the name of those people?
I can't remember.
Was it Kiefer's? Was that the?
Keepers was on the corner.
It was the meat market.
Meat market, yep.
But there was the one, I don't know the name, the one where Jeff's is.
Right.
A grocery
I can't
store.
remember what it
But
was.
there was also a Kroger's.
Oh, I didn't
There
know
was
that.
a Kroger.
There was a
here.
Kroger's back in the 30s.
Who
And
knew?
it set right here on Main Street.
Yes.
It was, yep.
There's in the old black and white video that you see on the historical page. There you can see people coming out. I think it said, don't quote me, a dozen eggs for like 39 cents or something
That's
like
probably
that.
right.
So then you had the bigger ones, IGA. Well, first was Johnson's, and
Johnson was one of the first food
Right.
stores
Yep.
in
Sure.
town. And then but at one time before that, Kroger's was actually here in town.
I didn't know that. And there were
Yeah, they were there. I think I'm right on this. Where the car place, Scotty's place there on Main Street, where the health center is now.
Tato, not Tato. I can't think of the name of this.
Stapleton.
Stapleton's. It was before Stapleton. It was
And
something.
then before that was Scotty.
I can't think of the name. I know what you're thinking. I can't think of it.
but there was a store there.
Yeah, that was a
There's a lot
that
of
was
stuff.
Okay.
Buick agency.
Yeah, I can't think of the name of it. That's terrible. Holt.
Holt was in there.
Holt
Was there.
Yeah.
That was the one that was there. Scott, we called him Scotty. What the heck was his name? But he was there before Holt, and he started a business, a Buick agency there. And then Holt came in and ran that for a good many years too.
Now, I got to ask you a question. And this is always something that I didn't know about until I came to New Carlisle. I came to New Carlisle working at the New Carlisle Sun. That was 1977. And I found out that there was a donut shop that was a bank that John Dillinger robbed. Now, I know you had told me some information about John Dillinger. I know there's a lot of myths about it and stuff. Can you give us some information about that?
Is it true you were there that
Is
day?
it true you were there? Is that true? You tried to run him down?
Wait a minute.
I wrote a history of that.
I really give us some because a lot of people don't know that. They know it's a bank, but they don't know exactly what happened.
Well, Dillinger was a big name gangster during the 1930s, and he quite often went into small towns around Indiana and Ohio, Michigan, and that's where he did his dirty work. And he came to New Carlisle in 1933, I believe it was, 33 somewhere. I think that was the year, and he robbed the bank here. And the story is that Dillinger would hit the small towns because it was easy to, get in. But supposedly there's always a story said that he had some knowledge about this bank always leaving a window open. I don't know whether that was all true, but he did come through the window.
He came.
On the back side of the building, the faces where
Sally lives.
Sally lives.
Sally retired.
That's the way he didn't rob it while they were open. Or was this
No, he
no,
waited
no.
overnight.
They went in there, and what they did,
at nighttime?
they got in during
I did not know
Waited for the
that.
morning.
early morning hours. In there in the early morning hours, laid low in the bank till the officials opened the bank. When they came in, were robbing the bank. They opened the safe. And, the guy, I can't think of his name, it was running the bank. No argument, they got about $10,000 every time. That was the bank. That was the amount of robbery. But they just laid low back at the counter, and it was easy for them when they opened the damn safe.
No.
This is
kidding.
Abe's Hidden Treasures now.
Yeah.
You don't know that.
On
Abe's Hidden
the
Treasures.
corner of 571 in Maine.
Yeah.
Yep,
And-
that's how that's the
So he
Dillinger.
broke in, hung out.
Hung out there until the people come in. Bank manager came in. When they opened up, they popped up and behind the counters and said, "Open the vault.
No
We're here to
kidding.
rob you."
Nobody got hurt though.
Nobody got hurt.
And he got
They had
$30,000.
guns. but
$10,000.
Nobody argued with them. They opened the bank, and I think it was $10,000 that they took out of here.
Now he was caught years later, but did he ever get caught? I mean, I know that they know he did it, but was he ever arrested for that particular
No,
crime?
I don't think that.
so.
Okay.
I don't think so.
When they caught him, and his gang, they spent time in the penitentiary.
Yeah.
But he was a big time robber. I mean, but he hit the small towns. He would hit Indiana and Ohio, Michigan. He went all over the area.
Okay.
But they were big time professionals.
Now, was it true that they threw nails and thumbtacks and stuff along the road to slow down the police?
They left here.
Really?
They went east on the out
571?
571. My uncle worked for the Clark County business, the people on the road. I had an uncle working for them at that time, and they had to come out here. They threw nails.
They had to clean it up.
They cleaned all the way out. I don't know how far out they went, but that was the way they escaped from town. Nobody followed. They really didn't know the bank was robbed.
Well, yeah.
Until then people, until
Wow.
Somebody came in and opened the bank, and they tied these people up in there, and when they came in, and they were found when people began to come in the bank. How was that? I can't remember how exactly. Well, I guess one of the other officials came in and opened up the bank, and they had been laying back of their counter. They took the money, got the money, and then they took off, and they were gone.
Yeah,
they were out of here.
Well, let me ask you this to get back to a little bit more about you. I mean, that's no. It's a great story.
I wanted to know myself. We're not. By the way, we're not promoting this Dillinger thing because we know he was a bad man.
We don't promote bank robbery.
It's just the fact that
it's one of the things
here in town.
It's one of the things New Carlisle is known for.
All right, that's
no. I'm all about the history stories because this guy would know more than anybody. So you'd moved into town. You're starting to get to know people. Back to your family a little bit. How many children do you have?
I have 2 daughters. We lost a son. And Brenda is my oldest. She was born in 1957. Pam, my youngest, was born in 1964. In between there, we had a son in 1960.
Okay.
And he passed away. He was never really fully developed. What we found later was at a time when there wasn't much you could do for a person that had a problem with the heart.
Okay.
And today, whatever it was, I'd have to go back and read the records that we have. It was untreatable. They couldn't deal with that in 1960.
Yeah.
He had heart defect that could be corrected today.
Yeah.
But back then they weren't doing that kind of thing. That didn't happen until DeBakey, the heart doctor out of Texas, developed a lot of things that going in and doing internal heart opening and doing things to correct problems. But he was the first to begin to do that. But that was after this point in time when that son of mine was born. And so he lived to be about 3.5 years old, and we lost him as a result of this heart defect. And but anyway, that was just the thing that that's today. Whatever happened to him they could correct it today.
Yeah.
That was
well. I mean, so many advances have been made in medical. It's amazing. How many grandchildren do you have, or how much further down does it go?
I have 3 grandchildren.
3?
Brenda has a daughter, my oldest granddaughter, and then Zeb McNabb.
Okay.
Zeb is Pam's son.
Okay.
And Morgan McNabb.
Okay.
They both they're Pam's children, and so I have 3 grandchildren.
Nice.
And now I have a new great granddaughter.
There we go. That's what I was waiting to see if there was
another little Barry.
Morgan has a child. My granddaughter Morgan. So that's my great granddaughter is called Vera.
Okay.
And she's named after my mother.
Wow, that's great.
That's great. Yeah. That's nice.
My mom and dad were. Her name was Vera. My dad was James Edward, but he was always called Ed.
Okay.
I like that.
I call him Dad, but
of course
everybody else called him.
Don't call him Ed.
Ed or Sir.
Yep. Great parents, and did a great job. We weren't poor, we weren't rich, we just were average people.
Yeah.
At that time, there was nobody, I don't remember any rich people. There were people who had more than I did, but we weren't poor either. I mean, we had a meal on the table every day. My mom was a great cook. And, so, we didn't think of ourselves being poor.
Yeah. You had a good life. You had a good upbringing.
Life. And it was at a time when you could have a good life. My dad didn't make big money. He worked Steel Products Engineering Company in Springfield from, I think, he got a job there during the Depression years towards the end. 1938, I think he went to work there. And he worked there until 1957 or 58 when he retired. But made decent salary, raised 7 children, made his children, we worked. We all did something as growing up. And then I said I had that newspaper route. I made my own way, bought my own clothing, shoes, clothing. And most of my brothers and sisters did that. They were dead. Dad and Mom helped us,
Sure.
But I worked. Then Jim went. The only two. Jim went to college. My brother Jim, who later became prosecutor in Clark County, and then I followed Jim. I'm next to him. And I went on to college and became a teacher. And so, we made our way.
Yeah.
And, but we all helped one another at home. That was just the way it was.
What is the biggest change that you think in New Carlisle? What's the biggest change since you moved here?
Well, we've certainly grown.
Yes.
That's one thing. It's much larger. I think it's probably, and I don't mean this in a mean way, as we grew, we maybe sort of separated and we weren't as close to one another. We knew everybody. Let me put it that way. You knew most everybody. Yeah. And so the people were much closer together.
Right.
There was not the bickering and sometimes the negativism that we sometimes see today, because our community, they were close. The business people were close to people. People were close to the business people. They did things together.
Yeah.
And so there was a good relationship there. That has changed, but that has changed in our whole society.
Yeah. I mean, people are physically still neighbors as they were 40, 50 years ago, but
they aren't neighborly.
Or they're not neighborly.
Well, what do you think? I mean, what do you see visually that has changed? Not just people, but when you come into New Carlisle now to me, it doesn't change a whole lot. When you come in, Water Dog is a mainstay.
Yep.
You come in 571, usually, the Abe's Hidden Treasures, which has been there for a long time as a donut shop, as other
Bank
things.
building.
The sad thing is we've lost scarves. In those names that stick out in your mind with New Carlisle. And Security Bank, I mean, it's become part, and as long as I can remember, Security Bank has been part of New Carlisle. It's like anything else. And it was kind of like the Western Auto and other things. And when Bobo's left, that's a little odd. Now it's Studebaker's. And Johnson's left, which all these things to me, when I came to town, are kind of gone now.
You're right.
What about you?
We've become more divisive. I believe our relationships, we became more independent. The hell with you. Now don't misunderstand.
Oh, I understand that.
I do it my way.
Right.
You're my neighbor. Nice to know you. But that neighborliness
Correct.
left us. It's not there.
Right.
Yeah.
I know my neighbors. I see them and I speak to them. We're not neighbors.
Right.
Yeah.
That changed.
Yeah.
It isn't that I wouldn't go across the street to talk to my neighbor, who I occasionally do that, but it was not the closeness. I think if they needed something, there was a time when the guy across the street would go over and help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen today. Or very. It does.
Oh, I agree.
But it's not something that's done.
It's not a widespread.
Exactly.
It's, my neighbors were very close. We borrowed tools. He helps me back and forth. but the overall that feel for the most part is gone.
It's
And
gone.
on a grand scale, I guess.
On the
you could
grand
say.
scale, it's not there.
What do you miss that you wish was back in
I
town?
miss that.
No, but what do you miss business wise in town that you wish was still here?
Oh, I wish that we had a lot of those businesses that we could go downtown and we could buy groceries, or we could go downtown and buy clothing. I want to buy a new dress shirt. I could have gone to Vogue Shop because they dealt with that. You know, the more personal relationships that we had with those people. But that changed for everything. Not just here in New Carlisle. That just was a societal change. Because when the malls came in, they pulled those kinds of businesses out of
Everywhere.
St. Paris, South Charleston, New Carlisle. You know, those businesses left because they couldn't make it anymore.
And now, oddly enough, the malls and the box stores are hurting
And now they're hurting
because of Amazon.
because of the people today go to Amazon.
Yeah.
Or whatever or businesses and buy. They buy things are brought in
To your
by
door. Yeah.
post office today.
But is there one business you really miss? I mean, is there one thing that you used to go to all the time that you miss?
Your favorite, like,
Yeah,
I know I've got a favorite store,
I mean, I miss not being able to go to Johnson when I was living
Johnson's
here.
or J&E.
and Lawson's even. Oh, J&E. Oh,
J&E
yeah,
was-
J&E.
J&E was iconic.
I
for
mean,
me.
it was like Kmart, and it was right here in town.
Had everything.
You could go in and buy anything in there, and you knew Stitzel, you knew Pam Tainer.
Yep.
You went in there and you said, "Hi, how are you? Have you got this?" Well, sure, it's right over there.
Yeah.
It's right there.
George Davis.
George Davis.
So I don't remember.
No, I do not.
George Davis was on Jefferson Street, up where the taxman is now.
Okay, Arrowhead Tax.
Where
Mr. Maxwell, good
Maxwell,
guy.
is,
Yeah,
where
sure.
Maxwell is now. He had a business in there and sold all kinds of things that you needed,
Sure.
things for the home, things, instruments, tools, things like that. It's kind of all kinds of
Like a
things
variety
that,
of-
a variety of things that you would need.
And you used to be able to buy furniture here. Trostful's. I mean, the
Trostful's
Slinker
was
family.
across the
My
street.
goodness.
I have video of you you look like a kid in a candy store. Remember when you got the time capsule from Trostful's when
Oh
they
my
tore it down?
Oh yeah,
I have video of you opening that.
had all that time.
Yeah.
See, you may not know that, but you could buy a new Buick in town.
That's right.
You could buy furniture in town. Like Western Auto, you could buy anything at that Western Auto store.
Exactly.
I mean, he had
Everything.
pipes, fittings, you name it, electrical. Just go. You could walk to town. You basically could walk right
That
to
was
it.
like our Ace
Yeah,
store.
exactly.
It was like our Ace
And,
today.
and it wasn't. You didn't go in and you didn't know who somebody was. They weren't wearing an orange vest. It was Mr. Peters.
They
Hey,
didn't-
you got this.
yeah, that-
Ron
you-
Peters.
And you go, "Hey, Marshall, how you doing?"
They-
Yeah, sure, I got it right here.
They didn't need name tags.
And it was so weird because if you're there and you're a little short, well, don't worry about it. Just give it to me when you come back.
Yep.
Yep.
You can't do that now.
Nope.
But yeah, it was
There was
great.
that closeness that we had and shared with one another, and you knew your business. You trusted them.
You did, and they trusted you.
And they trusted you. And you didn't worry about, well, God, that's too high.
Yeah.
Well, you some things were,
Right.
but most things were reasonable, and people in our town at that time could deal and they
Yes.
fairly deal with people.
Yeah.
And they just trusted one another more. We've lost all that.
Well, give us something that I know you made some notes. What things do you remember that are important to you in New Carlisle?
That's what I was going to ask you. Let me piggyback off that. You've done, obviously, anybody, you, me, yourself, things that we are probably all most proud of is our families, our friends, and the relationships we have within that circle. What are, like you said, what are some of the things you remember? What are some of the things that you were most proud of after, family things and, something, what are the things you were most proud of?
The
that you've done in your-
closeness of our community, the way in which people knew one another, got along with one another. There was not the feeling of division that we have today. And that came about simply as a part of, I think, how our society headed that way by not becoming too independent and not having that care for one another.
Mhm.
It was something that happened, I don't blame anybody for it. Or
Yeah.
just it was an occurrence that took place that we had no control over.
I think it's pretty obvious that Mr. Berry is a community person, and he misses that. And I think a lot of people do. For those people that don't know, well, hopefully everybody knows about Heritage of Flight. But if you come to New Carlisle on the first weekend of October, on that Friday night, our town has so many people in it,
Yep.
and it's local people. There are people that my kids went to school with, their parents. I see them. It's like I saw Mr. Berry. Last time I saw Mr. Berry was at the Heritage of Flight Festival. I mean, it is so nice to come downtown and people are there. They're laughing, they're
friendly.
joking, they're talking.
It's a citywide class
It
reunion.
is. Nobody pushing, nobody shoving. I mean, there is because of so many people, but it is so neat to feel that energy that the town has, and you just love getting to see those people. Even if it's somebody you don't really care about, you at least say, "Hey, how you doing?" and shake their hand,
Yeah,
and
right.
you move on. But at least you're there with the people that you grew up with, or the people that you knew or you recognize, and it's always good. Like it's always good to see Mr. Berry. It's just amazing how many people come out that night just to have that time with friends.
Yeah.
Marshall, you know what I think? It's a longing that people have for connections.
I agree.
It's something that people need.
I agree.
They may not know that in their mind, but it is something that we need it.
Yeah.
And we strive to have it by meeting people, being with people. That's how we exist.
I
If
agree.
we didn't have that, we wouldn't be worth much, would it?
No.
No,
You need that connection.
those are great words. Those are
And-
great
and
words.
I think that
I agree.
that's what I feel that we've lost. That kind of thing. Independence is a great thing. We need that, but we also need to remember that we need people. We need friends, and we need to develop those friendships. And that's what makes a town or a city or village, whatever you want to call it. That's what makes them great when you have the connections
I agree.
that pull people together. And it's happened all over our country.
Yeah.
Look at the division that we have in our country, in our nation here. It's frightening in a sense because of the division that we find in people and the hate that existed. It seems to exist in places of it in our country. That we just sort of separated, and that to me somehow or another, I don't know how we bring it back nationwide, internationally, but it needs something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something needs to happen to pull that back.
I
bring
agree.
people together. Right?
I think that one weekend and that one night does that.
It shows you the longing that people
I think
have.
people come out, and even if it's raining or a little cold or
They're
if it's
still
too
there.
hot, they come out and they still, it's amazing how much it makes you feel so good
That's exactly right.
to let people just get together. And I can't tell you how many people say, I saw so and so and I haven't seen them in years.
Yeah.
Yep.
And they're like, it was so nice to see them. And nobody cares what color you are or what you believe in or don't believe in. You're just walking down the street, having a good time, talking to people and enjoying life.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful experience.
It is a great experience.
Yeah.
It makes us feel so happy. And I'm not bragging on the Heritage of Flight crew, but it makes us feel happy that we can bring the city together for those 3 days and everybody just be happy.
Yeah, that's right.
And they can walk from their house and come downtown. And it's like, I don't have to go anywhere. I can just walk downtown and I can do what I want, see what I want. And it's great.
And those times when we have those events like that, that tells you that people are longing
You're right.
for that connection.
I would agree.
You wouldn't have those large crowds come down there and fill the streets without those events. So it tells me it's a longing. They may not sense it in that way,
Right.
but it's there because people need people.
He's right. He is right. Absolutely
People
right.
need people. You need that existence with other people.
I agree. I need people like Mike. I need people like you. I mean, young, I'm middle of the group kind of, sort of, and you're the older, but I mean, we're all pulling together because, if it wasn't for you and, and then I joined with you and then Mike joined with me, it's kind of pulling together, and we're trying to get people to come in together. But it's people that it carries on down the line.
It does.
Because I saw all the great things you did. I jumped on board to try and do things I could do. Mike jumped on board to see what he can do. And it's just all kind of coming together. Slowly, but it's getting there.
It's slowly, but it's that kind of leadership that we need. That's the kind of thing that we need. People who sense the necessity of bringing people
Understanding
together.
that's what people need.
I said this one time. It's been a few years. When I was still on city council, and I forget what the discussion was at the time. I don't know. It may have been my last day or something, but we were discussing the festival or something, and I was discussing, the city and all the events that different groups put on, and the things that you've done, and Mr. Lowell McLaughlin, and all the other people have done so much. And I explained it kind of this way. I said, you have people that are addicted to things. People get addicted to sugar or Pepsi or drugs or whatever it may be. I said, but if you have ever, put your neck out or the energy to go help a local group, like when I started with the festival committee with you two, or at a church or at a food pantry or whatever it is, and you start, you get that little taste of being involved with a community, it then becomes an addiction because it's one of the most amazing feelings in the world.
Yes.
I mean, to say, when we wrap up the festival and we see people start posting their pictures of their kids, and it's like, look what we did. Look what this community as a whole has done. They've come together. They've enjoyed time on Main Street. They enjoyed time, handing food out at the food pantry or soup kitchens or the churches or the schools or all the different clubs that are around there. And it is such a great feeling. So, and that's the thing. You've got to, when I was in my early 20s, I hadn't experienced that yet. I had met you, and you were, doing all the different things you've done in town along with you. And I got a little taste of that. And it's a great feeling. So if it isn't, and that's the whole point of, we want people to know how important Mr. Barry is, of the things that he has started that has been passed on for years and years to other people. And that's what's important.
That's what makes a community.
Right.
The division between people.
We were talking earlier. And first, I want somebody to know something. Mr. Barry doesn't look for any kind of credit. We made him grand marshal of several parades, and usually he will turn us down. He'll flat out say, "No, I don't want." But he'll say, "I'll do it if I can bring my wife." And of course, she's we love Dee. She's a beautiful lady, and we do that. But we do it because we want to make people know that this guy means so much to the community, and it's important to us. And not everybody knows that Mr. Barry is Mr. New Carlisle, but he don't think he looks for this. He doesn't.
No.
We kind of force it onto him because we want everybody to remember. We want everybody to remember Bill Barry and his wife Dee and how much they've done for the community. Now, one thing we touched on earlier before Mike started rolling, tell us about the community choir. Now, you gave me some insight on that I didn't know about.
Bill Hatcher was, I refer to him as a mentor in a sense. I remember him coming to me in 1984, 85 and saying, Bill, we need to do, you're so involved in music, and we need to develop something in this town that sort of makes us look like ambassadors. And that's what I thought that word popped out to me, ambassadors of goodness, and to spread that ambassadorship across many, many avenues. And that's when we organized the community chorus. 1985, I said, okay, Bill, we'll do this. You've got to help me with this, but we can do this. So we started the chorus, and I started out, I think we had about 30 people. We put it in the paper. I wrote an article in the paper that we were developing a community chorus, and we invited the community to express an interest. If you were interested in it, to get a hold of me. My God, it didn't take long at all. I had built a chorus within just a few weeks of almost 75 people.
A lot of talent in New Carlisle, right?
There was a lot of talent, people who wanted to sing, who wanted to do something like that. And so that's when we developed that. And Bill was very helpful. He was like a business manager. He found the events that we could become a part of and entertaining. And we started it locally here. I think the first time the choir came together was back in what was the year it was a year here that we were celebrating 175
Oh, the bicentennial?
bicentennial.
Yeah.
Came together. We had the choir performed out at the park.
Mhm.
Had a big crowd, and that was the beginning of that chorus. That drew in other people. We began to draw in other people then. And as I said, we became an ambassador from the city of New Carlisle. We became well known across Ohio, Indiana, Michigan, because we began to travel to those places, like Frankenmuth, or like Williamsburg, Virginia, or like venues in Dayton, Ohio. And we became well known. The New Carlisle Community Chorus became well known as a group of entertainers. We were being invited. We sang all over the place.
Yeah.
Always being invited to some venue to provide programs for people. And that was very important, I think, for us. I always give Bill Katzer great credit because of his support. He was, I think, Bill say, somebody called me and wanted us to do this. And so, he was very helpful in development. It wasn't just me. I guess I had the talent to direct the chorus and pick the music, and but it was all the people who became involved in it that did the job. That's what made it. And I'm sorry, I think that was important to me. The director today, and it's still there, but that excitement or that importance isn't there. He's a great guy. Don't misunderstand.
Right.
But it's not what he particularly strives for. That was something that when I saw what we could do, the events that we participated in, and how important that became for our city, that I wanted to push it. Let's go forward, and that's what Bill Hatcher wanted. Let's do this. We had busloads that we would actually pick of people in the community.
Wow.
Many of them were tied in some way to the chorus, the
Yeah.
people in the chorus. Well, we took 2 or 3 buses to Williamsburg, Virginia, to Frankenmuth, Michigan. And, that was a part of
That's
our
amazing.
audience.
Yeah.
I would have never guessed.
Sang. No, they were just maybe family or connected in some way.
Oh.
It was a popular thing that we did there. It period 85 through probably up till about 2000. I'd given the chorus up, I think, in 2000, probably 2002, I think it was.
Okay, on date night in New Carlisle, we'll just go back time a little bit. Was there a what a dog, or was it around, or was
Yeah, where did you and the missus go for a date?
Yeah, for a dinner date? I know Bobo's was around, and I don't know when What a Dog started. So we're here in town. What was the place to go eat at back in your day?
Bobo's was probably pretty important.
Yeah,
And we just left there.
yeah.
Technically.
Jim Bobo, shout out.
Now Studebaker's.
Same place.
So you guys went to Bobo's. That was your night out.
That was a pretty big thing. It was the best place we had in town. At that
They had
time.
ice cream too, right? They had all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. We went out of town.
Okay,
we
yeah.
went. Springfield was an important adjunct to
Sure.
our community, and businesses that we would have to
Right.
would want to be a part of and buying things. So yeah, Springfield was important. Although I worry about Springfield today I think there's some problems that may exist within the city.
Right.
And I don't blame Rob Rue. I think
No,
Rob Rue is
Rob's
a great guy, and he's trying to do a good job
He
as
is.
mayor. But it's like everything else, the divisiveness that we
Right.
have, that where people don't want to work together. You do your thing, I'll do my thing.
Right.
We could do much better at this, and I don't know how we do it, how we pull it together. But it may be something that areas like the leadership in Springfield, the leadership in New Carlisle, the leadership in Medway, that all of these people that are in leadership positions somehow come together and try to pull the Clark County, say the whole Clark County area. How do we become better? How do we do a better job of becoming one entity?
Good question.
How do we do that? And the way we do it, I think, is that leadership in those various areas come together.
Right.
And sit down and honestly and without anger,
That's pretty hard to do these days.
right? But with some positiveness.
Right.
How do we do it better? How can we work together to make Clark County a better place to live?
You know, you're not too young. You can run for office. I'm telling you now, buddy, you could help us. How do you feel about the growth that's happening right now? McDonald's moves into New Carlisle, Taco Bell,
Yep.
new development coming outside north of town.
Yep.
What do you think about that? Just give us your opinion real quick.
I think it's good. I think we're growing. It appears that we're growing to the north in that direction because our communities are developing out in our north area, up in the Pike Township and places like that. So that seems to be the way we're going. We grew from the south, really from, you might say, Park Lane, north into New Carlisle, and now it seems to be going on further north in developments as far up into in the Pike Township, areas like that. But I think it's good. I don't see anything. I think as we grow, we can become better, but we still need the togetherness.
30 or 40 years down the road, where do you, one of two things, or however you want to answer it, where do you see New Carlisle? What do you think the projection is for New Carlisle, or what would you like to see New Carlisle become in 30
Well, I think
40 years?
we're going to continue to grow, and it's going to be in the northward direction. Because we can't go out south. It's got to be north.
And we're already bumping Miami.
And we're bumping up the west side to Miami County. So it's going to be to the north. And I think we're seeing that start now. It can't do anything but be helpful to us. I think we can grow as a result of that and become more industrious, more business oriented, and it'll be good. I think it should be good for us. Should help New Carlisle, not hurt us. But we need to have leadership within our town, I think, to make sure that we are involved in it, that we become involved in it. We want to be a part of it. That's, I think, ought to be the important thing, that we have good leadership that will want to be a part of that and be involved, not just sitting back, but being involved in promoting.
Great.
I think it's going to take some of that.
Yeah.
And our new leadership that will be coming on.
Yeah.
On board. And I'm not familiar with how a lot of that, but I'm sure there are people out there that are in our community that would like to see that happen.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Berry, thank you so much for everything you've done for the community, for me personally. It's
Nothing but respect, sir.
It's a true honor.
Thank you. I appreciate that. But it's the way I was raised.
And you were raised right, sir.
I
You
was
really
raised, I believe, in the manner, not trying to be a dictator, but to try to work with people to do better and to make things better. That's just where I've done that within my family. That's important. We do it within the family. And, I will settle the disputes that sometimes occur within families. And, I think that's the way we can do it in the community. We can spread that out and do it in that way.
Well, I think what we first need to do is get a memo out immediately in order to go with, his look on the future. The first thing anybody needs to do is become a TV antenna repair man.
and deliver newspapers.
And deliver newspapers, and you will be golden.
Golden.
Oh, those were important. I'll tell you, they were important in my life. I think about those. Why did I become have a good business mind, and I think I do, was probably the newspaper route. I had to take care of the money. I knew I had to collect that money and pay the company.
Yeah.
But I also made a living off it.
What was your fun money? Did you use money for something that you really liked yourself, or was it? I mean, did you ever have something you would splurge on yourself?
A hobby
It
or
was very important that I was able to do those kinds of things and to work my way into college. The only help I got from my parents, and I'm not knocking them.
No, I understand.
They couldn't afford it. I was able to live at home. I was supported by them.
Right.
The things I was doing, they agreed with, they liked, because that's what my parents taught me.
are you asking what do you spend his money on?
Did you ever splurge on anything?
Did you buy hot rods
have
or
your own
music?
little-
I never had a car until,
Okay.
you know, the first car I had,
No, sir.
he owned it.
That's why you loved her. Tell the truth. She had a car.
She
She
did.
had a car.
She had a car. She had a car.
So she
before
picked
I
you
did.
up for the first
That's
date.
exactly right.
Did she walk up to the door and get you?
Did she open the car door for you?
Oh my gosh.
No, but
Let's
she
don't go
had-
there. Let's don't
She
go there.
had the first car, and the interesting thing we got when we really got together and were dating
Sure.
often, I took her car. I had her car for most of the time.
Bring my car back.
It really was. I'm not out, but I take it home because I
Sure.
didn't have a car, and I lived over in Sugar Groveville.
Yeah.
So when I'd come out, many times I'd take her car because she worked by Pat that time we were dating, and so she had a ride. She went to work, rode with 2 or 3 guys here in New Carlisle that went to work down there, and they'd pick her up, and so she didn't need the car. I'd take the car and I'd have it for most of the week.
What kind of car was it?
It was a Chevy.
A Chevy.
What was the model? I'm trying to think of the model that early
Bel Air.
Bel Air.
Bel Air.
Bel Air.
It was Bel Air.
Oh, if you still had it. Jeez.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Bel Air.
What color?
It was a light greenish color.
That was a
I know-
popular color back
I
then.
know that color.
Pretty
It
popular.
was a very popular color. Well, now you've heard it all.
I've heard it all. He stole his wife's car and she opened the car door for him on dates.
I'll tell you, she was a great person. And then
Well, she still is, I'm
She
sure.
is.
Still is.
Yeah.
But she helped me a lot, by her going to work and helped me through my last year of college, and just was very supportive.
You did all right. You had a car. You got a house. You did all right with D. I'm telling you, buddy. You were-
She was very helpful.
The whole package.
I love it.
She really was, and we done well. We
You
were very
did.
successful.
She's lucky to have you, and you're lucky to have her.
Yes, that's exactly right.
You are.
Well, thank
70 years come April the 4th.
70 years. Well,
70.
congratulations.
Yes, really.
Congratulations on your marriage, your family, everything you've accomplished in life.
Thank you, Roy.
You-
Thank you very much.
You've been just a huge part of New Carlisle.
Mr. New Carlisle.
We cannot thank you enough.
Exactly.
Well, I thank you. I've tried to do that. I've always tried to be someone who is helpful and not negative.
All right. Well, we'll wrap it up. Marshall, thank you.
Thank
I appreciate
you.
it. Mr. Barry, thank you
Mr. Barry.
again.
Well, you're
The man.
welcome. It's
And-
been fun to do, and I really enjoy this town. I enjoy New Carlisle.
So do
Great
I.
town. It's a good town.
Great
It's a
town.
great town to raise our kids.
It was. It is. Right.
And we've got a good school system. We've got a good government. Nothing wrong with this town
No.
that can't be repaired. And
Exactly.
there's areas where we might have some weaknesses.
There's always going to be bumps. Just got to
There's
work
always
them
going
out.
to be
That's
the
right.
bumps. Yep.
Well, with that being said, me and Mr. Gorby here, I think we may end up doing another one of these because there's a lot of people in town I think that
Yeah.
people would need to know and want to know more about.
Yeah.
So
So you might see us
Good
again.
idea.
you might see us again. So everyone have a pleasant evening, and we appreciate you taking the time to listen to Mr. Barry and all the great information he shared with us. So
Well, thank you.
Yep. From
Have
the
a great-
Masonic Temple. we
have a
say
great
goodbye.
day. Thank
Take
you.
care. God bless.
Bless.